Hello, this is Dread from Epic Builds. In today's video topic, we're going to be talking about one of my newest builds. This is going to be Maelstrom Cold Stacking Primalist. So, the reason why I wanted to play this build was because I've seen a lot of new people from the game. Like, they'll play Primalist and they'll choose Maelstrom, as you get Maelstrom pretty early and it's a pretty fun skill to level with. Well, once they reach endgame, they end up quitting the skill because they have no idea how to scale it, have no idea how to play it. Well, back in the day, Maelstrom was not regarded as the best thing ever in terms of damage output because of the fact that, you could not sustain enough stacks to make it viable. Well, a few things have changed. First thing, Warcry has been introduced into the game where you get 4 extra stacks every 4 seconds, which allows you to reach up to those higher stacks much quicker, so Warcry definitely helps with that. And then, of course, the mana regen changed this recent patch. So, if you guys do not know, mana regen was changed in this patch to make it so that base mana went from 10 to 8, and then all the increased values of mana regen went up significantly. Like, for instance, for regular pieces, it gets up to like 35%, and for an amulet, it gets up all the way to like 45%. And you also have new bases that give you mana regen, while also having a bunch of new nodes that give you mana regen. Now, Shaman is one of the special classes that gets mana regen at the upper half of its tree and at the bottom half of its tree as well, allowing it to reach the most amount of mana regen in the game. So right now I am at 26 to 27, 28 mana regen. It's kind of like dependent on a few things. So this is a lot of mana regen. This is like the upper half of how much mana regen you have. Now, this build is not playable without the mana regen, at least for endgame, in terms of damage stacking and all that, because otherwise you will not have enough mana regen sustain to reach a decent number of stacks. Now, for my build right now, the decent number is about 30 stacks. 30 stacks is when you actually start dealing damage. Now, just so you guys know, before you get too much into this build is not the heaviest in terms of DPS. It has a little bit less DPS than other builds in its caliber. But the beautiful thing about Maelstrom is, in the new Monolith of Fate, you really need to be able to stack certain mods to be able to push past the modifiers on the echoes so that you can get to Oribus and kill him with the corruption, so you keep stacking corruption. Well, this build's kind of perfect for that, as it can ignore dodge because it's an AoE DoT. It ignores crit avoidance because we don't crit to deal damage. And it ignores glancing blow because we don't care about glancing blow because we're not hitting. So it actually ignores a lot of the damage mods that normally would keep other builds from pushing past those certain echoes. Meaning that this build is perfect for just blindly running through monoliths and ignoring the mods. And since you can get enough damage, like you don't have all the damage in the world, but you can get enough damage to make it function. Now, I am missing another 20% increased cold damage per totem idle. I'm missing that, so my damage is a little bit less than it should be. I should have about 10% more damage or 20%. There's a lot of things you can do to efficiently make more damage for this build, but thanks to the fact that it is a cold damage over time, it means that you can run a bunch of elemental damage over time prefixes to increase the damage even further. And since we are a shaman, we have access to a lot of flat damage on the tree, and we also have an oracle staff as well. And the damage is respectable considering that this is a skill I did not think was going to be even legitimately good enough for the game. The only issue it has is single target. For clear, it does completely fine. Since you're stacking so many Maelstroms, your dodge rating actually goes through the roof. Most of the time, I'm at 70% dodge in empowered monos, which is insane, considering that it's literally just our Maelstrom and a few percentage dodge rolls on our gear. Now, another thing as well is you definitely want the movement speed stuff with this build, with Tornado and all that. So getting up to 80% movement speed is really nice considering your AoE isn't the biggest thing in the world, which helps a lot. Also, another mandatory thing for this build, in my opinion, for at least for empowered mono farming, not for like the campaign and all that, but for empowered mono farming, there is a blessing that Rai of the Black Sun gives you. It gives you about 3% spell damage leech as life, and this works with Maelstrom because it's a global spell damage leech, meaning it works with dots, which is very strong for us as it gives us all the sustain in the world. But up until that point, you could probably just put a point or two into the healing per Maelstrom stack and do completely fine. Now, that's pretty much it for the explanation of the build. Let's get into it. Alright guys, here we are in game with the build. The name's Suffering for You because, like I said, I suffered through Primalist leveling to get you a Primalist build. So, because like I said, I failed like about 4 Primalist builds before this, so it's nice to actually have a Primalist build that works. So, the main idea, like I said, is we Warcry and we stack up Maelstrom stacks and all that. We have our E and R on autocast as well, so that we can actually summon totems as well with Thorn Totem on hit. So we're going to get right into the skills here. So for Maelstrom, we have 2 points into stack duration. Now, if you have a +2 to Maelstrom, you would obviously want 3 points into this. This is very important as it helps your single target, because the longer things last, the more damage they deal throughout their duration. 3 points into Sleet-Footed for dodge rating per stack. We get an insane amount of dodge thanks to this build. 4 points into Calm for mana efficiency per Maelstrom, so we get down to like 15 mana cost. 2 points into Arctic Chill Travel, which the chill is really nice for us still because we're going to be standing next to enemies. We take about 3 points into Eye of the Storm for about 45% more damage. Now, with a bunch of level scaling through Omnis and +2 to levels and all that, you could probably grab the rest of this. Then we have 1 point into Power of the Storm. So the reason why we have Power of the Storm right now, you wouldn't normally run this mod, but the issue is I do not have a chance to summon Thorn Totem on hit that has 20% increased cold damage per active totem. If you had 2 chance to summon Thorn Totem on hit idols, right, then you would not need this. But since I only have 1, I need this for added consistency on single target because it only procs on hit. So I have to actually hit things for it to work. That's why we're also running Lightning on Tornado and we're running Ice Thorns. It's for the consistency of the summon totem on single target. Even then, it's still a little inconsistent on single target, so you definitely want that second idol. It's a very important idol. And then we have 4 points into Turbulence for increased mana cost but more damage. 1 point into Windswept for haste, so that when we're moving around we have a bunch of movement speed. And then we have Frenzy as well for more cast speed as well, so we can kind of just hold it down, right? Which is very, very strong. Now the second skill we have is Warcry. So we take 1 point into Juggernaut. You're invulnerable for 1 second after using Warcry. Very neat for dodging AoE attacks. 3 points into Breath of Atera. This is a lot of our sustain, especially before we get the spell damage leeches life. 4 points into Whirlpool. This is what allows us to do so much damage, thankfully giving us a bunch more stacks of Maelstrom. Then 1 point travel into Deep Roar. 1 point travel into Jormun's Wrath, a turn of cold, and then 5 points into Frostclaw. Since we're spamming Warcry all the time, this increased cold damage helps us significantly as it gives us 250% increased cold damage. That's insane, right? Then 1 point travel into Staggering Roar, 1 point travel into Kinetic Scream, 2 points into Shredding Howl for travel, and then 1 point into Shell Breath, so we have 50% cooldown on our Warcry, so that we have more uptime on this 4 amount of Maelstrom stacks. Very, very strong. Now for our Tornado, we take 3 points travel into Lasting Storm, 4 points travel into Hurricane, 1 point travel into Eye of the Storm, then 1 point into Snapkill to give it an instant cast and a cooldown, so that we can grab 1 point into Aspect of the Storm, giving us movement speed, 3 points into Storm Dervish for cast speed, which is important for this build because we need it to reach max stacks quickly, right? And then 2 points into Swift Wings, and then 1 point into Charge Storm. The reason why we're running Charge Storm is for, like I said, added consistency against single target, so that our chance to summon Thorn Totem on hit idol actually works. Like I said, I would heavily suggest having 2 of these, as that would help your consistency a significant amount. Obviously, you want like perfect 21% increased cold damage, and then like 8% chance to summon Thorn Totem on hit. That would be insane. Obviously, that would be like really high tier investment though. If you're lucky, you'll probably already have these idols. And then for other skills, we have Ice Thorns. Ice Thorns allows us to cast the Thorn Totems on hit. It's our main reason how we do it, especially while clearing. We have 1 point into Emblem of Might, so Ice Thorns costs 0 mana while we're holding a staff, which is very strong. 1 point travel into Neophilia, so we get travel. 1 point to Thorn Shield to give us armor whenever we cast Ice Thorns. It'll give us a shield for a second. 5 points into Bark Shield, so we get even more armor, and then 3 points into Eternal Protection, so it lasts almost 2 seconds. 1 point travel and into Second Nature to give it an instant cooldown and instant cast. 6 points into Floric Tides with 300% cooldown recovery speed, so that it gets all the way down to 1 second, although I have a cooldown recovery helmet. Then 2 points into Bulb Shield, so that we have a chance to recast when it expires. So pretty much, this is like literally all of our armor, which is insane. So if we have like max armor, it's like 30% instead of like having nothing, right? That's actually pretty cool. It gives us the totems, like I said, and it also gives us crit avoidance, so we're almost crit avoidance capped already with this build thanks to this node with Floric Tide. So all in all, Ice Thorns is a very good skill to be using in this slot. Now for the last skill, it's going to be Thorn Totem. This is the stereotypical Thorn Totem setup, so like I'll just leave this here. It'll be in the build planner below. I'm not going to explain it because it's like the most common skill tree used for this, so it's like whatever. It's like meta. So now we're going to get into the passives. So for the base Primalist skill tree, we run 6 points to the Gift of the Wilderness, 1 point travel into Natural Attunement, 2 points into Wisdom of the Wild, 1 point travel into Primal Medicine, 5 points into Hunter's Restoration for the increased health, 5 points into Ancient's Call for flat health. Then we grab 20 points inside Beastmaster, 8 points into Earthsign Strength, damage taken from nearby enemies. This is absolutely amazing for us considering we're always near enemies thanks to Maelstrom, right? Then we take 5 points into Boarheart because we're going to be hit a lot in melee range, so we get 30% reduction from that as well when we get hit by a melee attack, lasts 5 seconds. Then 2 points into Call of the Pack travel, so we can get up to Porcine Constitution for the HP as well. Then we're taking 7 points into Bark Skin with our last few points, so we get the endurance percentage. I am missing just a little bit here, and this will max me out. And then on Shaman, this is the most important part, we take 8 points into Silent Protector, which gives us a bunch of mana regen, which is insanely strong. 5 points into Totemic Fury, so whenever a totem's up, we get cast speed. 8 points into Tempest Form, mainly for the HP. That's mainly for in the shock chance on hit. It's kind of cool, but mainly for the HP. 2 points travel into Windbringer. 5 points into Shattered Heavens, as this gives us flat for our Maelstrom. 1 point travel into Protective Circle, so that when we have all of our totems up and stuff, we have pretty much capped res. When my Thorn Totems are up, we have capped res. You could mess with your gear and make it so you're actually capped res when you're summoning your Storm Totem that's on our bar. I'll explain that in a bit. So pretty much what this means is like whenever I have Storm Totem up, I'm always capped. You can kind of fix this even more by adding a few more points into this if you want. But I find it's reliable enough to not worry about it once we actually summon a Thorn Totem here. I'm just waiting for it. There you go. Once we have Thorn Totems up, we're pretty much fine. You would probably want one more node into this, I think, from what I've seen so far, at least with my current gear setup. This is highly dependent on your gear setup. 8 points into Rune of Awe for the adaptive spell damage. 8 points into Elemental Shrines for the increased mana regen, which is very important for this build. And then 8 points into Ascended Circle, so we deal more spell damage for each active totem, which we have 5 plus 1 with Storm Totem, which that's in a lot of increased damage. That's pretty much it for the skills. Now for the idols, we have increased spell damage, increased cold damage, chance to summon on totem on hit, but you obviously want 2 of these with a chance to summon Thorn Totem on hit and increased cold damage per totem. We're just running like whatever idols, then increased spell damage if you had an active totem, spell damage if you had an active totem. Now for our helmet, I'm running cooldown and recovery speed. You don't need that. I would rather have vitality here, increased spell damage, then HP or crit avoid, and then endurance. For the amulet, we have increased mana regen, which is very important, increased elemental damage over time, which is also very important, and then frailty, which is also very important, and then HP, although I'd rather have dodge percentage here so that we have more dodge overall. Then for our weapon, we run Oracle Staff. Oracle Staff is the best choice, no matter what you really think. Like, Oracle Staff's the best choice for this build because the -3 mana cost for our Maelstrom, while also giving us 100 flat as well. And it also makes it so that our Ice Thorns is 0 mana. Then we have cast speed so that we can reach our maximum stacks faster, increase elemental damage over time because it's an insane affix for this build. I just chose slow on hit because why not? Because we already have chill, and then health on kill. Like those don't really matter. Then for our chest, I have, you'd want vitality there, and then +2 to Maelstrom, and then dodge percentage, and then HP. And you definitely want it on the movement speed base. There is a mana regen base, but it's not really worth it because it only rolls up to like 10%, I think. So you'd rather want the movement speed instead, so you can go faster. Because the faster you can move, the faster you can clear monoliths, and the faster you can clear monoliths, the more loot you get, right? Then for our rings, we run double Sapphire Ring because the implicit gives us mana regen and also maximum mana. We run mana regen, elemental damage over time, a res, and HP. Same thing with this side as well. I'm kind of messed up with my rings, not the perfect things ever, right? Then for our gloves, we have Void Res gloves with cast speed, endurance, and HP. Our boots, our movement speed, HP, and dodge percentage. We want as much dodge percentage as possible because it scales the amount of dodge flat we have from Maelstrom. And then we also run a Frostborn Seed as it gives us an extra chance to cast Maelstrom every 5 seconds and a bunch of flat cold damage while also giving us mana regen. You can also run elemental damage over time as well here instead of that attunement, which I would heavily suggest doing so. Then a res and then frailty. You could probably run HP there as well, or you could run HP here instead where the frailty is and the dodge percentage, but like you only need one roll of frailty pretty much for this build. This build is built for monoliths. It is not built for arena. There are much better builds for arena, so this is just mainly for a monolith. And even then, this isn't like the best build in the world. It's more of a proof of concept that you can make Maelstrom do damage. With that being said, thank you all for watching. Have one for the rest of your day wherever you're at, and bye!